Hello guys, welcome to our Moxbite channel. In this discussion, we will summarize one of the dramas from Korea called All of Us Are Dead. So let's review the story. Episode 1 of All of Us Are Dead begins with a kid called Jin-soo bullied at school. With rain pouring down and under the neon sign of a cross, Jin-soo hits back and snaps. With contorting limbs, he launches himself at the other kids and tumbles down to his death. Or at least, it should be his death. He's still alive and taken into hospital with serious injuries. He's not himself though, and his father, Byung-chan, shows up and notices him growling and snarling. Holding a Bible, he apologizes before beating his son down. It's not enough, though, and he's still alive. We then skip across to Hyasun High School. Specifically the science lab, where a crazed rat inside a cage bites a girl called Hye-in-ju. As she holds her bleeding finger, Byung-chan shows up. It appears this is his lab, and when he notices Hye-in-ju's cut, he shuts the door and holds her captive. After his son went missing, rumors have begun spreading about Byung-chan. Kids whisper that he smells like a rotting corpse, and since Jin-soo's disappearance, he's slowly been growing more crazed and erratic. Well, if that includes tying up that bitten student and keeping her captive inside his lab, then yes, he's most definitely crazy. It's here we settle down a little and start to get to know some of these students. An-jo is a bright, optimistic kid, but her father has absolutely no hopes for her to excel at school. There's no pressure, and he admits that everyone is equal, especially as he works as a paramedic and sees life-threatening injuries every day. One of her best friends is Cheong-san, and he clearly likes her. He doesn't show it though, instead treating her mean. However, that's nothing compared to the mean bully in school, Gwynam. He's the guy we saw beating up Jin-soo at the start of the episode. He turns his attention to a couple of other kids, including Yoon-jae, whom he forces to strip off, and Chi-in-soo, who he forces to film. Soo Hyeok shows and tries to put a stop to this, but the kids are scared and succumb to the bully's wishes. Unfortunately, things only get worse for Yoon-jae, who finds herself at Myung-hwa's will. He scribbles over her t-shirt, writing in English, "I'm Joel sexy," while in class. While Yoon-jae excuses herself, Hee-sun does too, as she feels under the weather and needs to see the nurse. Hye-in-ju comes stumbling out from the lab she's been kept in and is clearly infected. With bloodshot eyes and snarls, the teacher rings the hospital. The other kids mention that Hye-in-ju smells like a rotten corpse too. The paramedics arrive to take Hye-in-ju away, led by An-jo's father. An-jo says goodbye to her dad, potentially for the last time. Hye-in-ju is not herself, and she's taken to the heart of the city. Unfortunately, when Byung-chan realizes that Hye-in-ju has gone, he's shocked and urges them to put her in quarantine. Because of his abduction though, he's approached by several police officers and arrested. While this is going on, we learn that the school nurse was actually bitten by Hye-in-ju. It doesn't take long for her to turn, with black veins protruding from the bite on her arm. As she lies on the floor, convulsing, Gwynam sees her and begins filming. His friend is immediately bitten and turns too. Through a really slick one-shot take, we cut from the drama downstairs to see Yoon-jae up on the roof. She wants to escape her living hell, but just before she jumps, several infected students tumble out the window before her, shattering glass and snarling viciously. The infected continue to grow in numbers, and that poses a particularly big problem for the students inside the canteen. Among them are Isaac, Cheong-san, Sai Hyeok, and An-jo. The latter is shocked, and as an infected arrives and pins her down, things have gone from bad to worse. Episode 2 of All of Us Are Dead picks up right where we left off. The infection is spreading, and the teachers gather for an emergency meeting. While they squabble, Sunhwa has had enough and decides to make an announcement to tell the other kids what's going on. The thing is, she walks right into the midst of this infection, as the place is absolute carnage. In the canteen, a fire breaks out in the kitchen, while An-jo is saved by Cheong-san. Another guy who survives is Gwynam, because of course he does. He holds his own against the infected, although it's clear he's just as frightened as the others. He scrambles into the kitchen and hides under a table with several other kids. Cheong-san and An-jo try to leave together, dodging and weaving through the hallways, using whatever they can to fend off the assault. Eventually they make it back inside their classroom, where Cheong-san likens what's happening to Train to Busan. Several other survivors make it back too, including Soo Hyeok and Isaac. Although they're safe for now, it's very clear that they won't be for long. One person who does know what's going on is Byung-chan. Down at the station, he's interrogated over what he knows. Jae-ik, the detective, suspects he also killed Jin-soo too. The thing is, Byung-chan is behind everything. He experimented on numerous different patients, trying to turn the balance of power from the cats to the mice. In other words, he extracted testosterone and used that as a way of creating a rage virus. And although he was still working on perfecting the serum, Hyun-ju getting bitten has essentially acted as the catalyst for everything that's happened. It doesn't take long before the emergency services are overwhelmed with calls about the zombie outbreak. Well, it turns out An-jo's father is also a fireman too, and he soon races to the school after a false report about a big fire is called in. Obviously this is a way of bringing in the cavalry, but it may well be too little too late. Coach Kang soon shows up in the classroom, but there's a big problem. He's been bitten, and although the other students do block up the doors, it doesn't take long before he turns. And soon after, so too does a student called Min-jae. The heartbreaking way she tells the others she doesn't want to die is a sobering reminder of how futile this infection is to try and fight off. But fight these kids do, and led by Dae-soo, he uses a door as a barricade to force a way through the hallways. It works a treat too, and allows the survivors to ascend up the floors. Surrounded on both sides, the kids manage to just about make to another classroom. Unfortunately, An-jo's phone is lost in the skirmish. That teacher, Sun Hwa, is actually still alive too. She manages to make it into the broadcasting room. She composes herself and immediately gets on the tannoy to make an announcement. Sun Hwa urges the students to leave and get out. The trouble is, the noise actually attracts all the zombies out on the grounds to head inside. She tries to stay positive, telling them all to find a safe space. The thing is, this infection isn't just at the high school now. With Hyun-ju infecting those at the hospital, the fire and police department are essentially divided between different places to try and find a solution. One of those includes An-jo's father, who is called out to an office building. While this is going on, we cut back to the surviving rabble of students at Hyasun High. Isaac plays matchmaker, telling An-jo that Cheong-san likes her. The trouble is, her hand is ice cold, and she immediately starts bleeding from the nose. She's infected. With little other choice, An-jo is forced to let go of her friend, quite literally, as she's dropped out the window to prevent everyone from being infected. Needing a way out, the kids use the hosepipe outside to create a way down. Na-yeon starts to grow impatient as Jeong-soo is first down the rope. Funnily enough, this leads down to the broadcasting station, where Sun Hwa happens to be waiting for them. One at a time, each of the students head into the floor below. For An-jo though, she's overcome with grief for her friend. Cheong-san encourages her to get it together. While they leave, Soo Hyeok finds himself alone after the incident in the hallway earlier in the episode. While he scrambled to safety, An-jo is saved, but Cheong-san appears to be lost as he's thrown out the window by the oncoming infected horde.